one of the artists that I've been hearing a lot about recently because of his controversial nature and the way in which he raps about his things and his name, is this guy named Lil Xan, who is actually my age. And Xan, sorry, stands for Xanax, and he is someone who says that, or he says that he was once addicted to Xanax and was able to overcome his addiction and wants to make music in order to kind of help other people who have been addicted to similar kinds of opiates and drugs and all sorts of things. So that's kind of the thing he's trying to project as his persona of sorts, and I've seen some of his interviews. He seems like a nice kid, nice guy. He seems kind of genuine. With that being said, just like X and just like a lot of these new rappers, young rappers, he is put into the group of very, very harshly maligned artists because of the notion that apparently his music is awful, or at least that's what people say. And as I may have said in some of my other videos, one of the things I've been trying to do in terms of listening to music or watching movies and all these things is I've been trying to kind of move away from a critical analysis of something that creates some kind of qualitative distinctions between high art and low art, good and bad. So I try to move into everything I try to experience and listen to. Of course, sometimes I can make mistakes and still end up going into that spectrum of sorts, but I try to be very much more open-minded and more, curious. I'm trying to be drawn by curiosity as opposed to by, critical assessment. So I listened to the Lil Xan album, Xanarchy, the Xanarchy, is that what it's called? I listened to it once, Total Xanarchy, and I tried to keep in mind to be open-minded, and I had not listened to any of his music before, though I have heard lots of negative things about it, because partly I think he kind of said something about how Tupac wasn't good a rapper or something like that, and he kind of riled up the hip-hop community, the old heads. Anyway, so I just scrolled through his videos on YouTube and saw that he has millions and millions of views, and similarly to XXXTentacion, although probably not at that level of popularity, but he has lots of fans and he has a lot of people watching him and a lot of people who hate him as well. So I said, I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna be open-minded and listen to what he's trying to say. And as expected, in line with a lot of the criticism towards him, yes, the music is not the sophisticated type that you were kind of, but people in the critical community seem to be wanting more of, when they hail someone like Kendrick Lamar, someone who has a lot of lyrical skill in terms of creating very vivid imagery and doing all these incorporating a lot of figures of speech and metaphors and just being very complex with their rhyme structures and rap styles and all this stuff. So a lot of these kind of with a lot of the critical reception of things likes to gravitate towards is a kind of experimentation, and it's also something that I think appeals to me, although I feel like it is you have to understand that not everyone tries to do this, not everyone should be compared to Kendrick Lamar, especially when they're doing different things, and I kind of said this earlier in the Cardi B review, I said, her album is not very technically proficient as something like Kendrick Lamar's, but because of the way that the structure of the critical and social landscape and cultural landscape, her type of music, which for me honestly is very similar to Nicki Minaj's a few years ago, she's being she's benefiting a lot from this. I'm not saying this in a negative way. I think it's just a fact of things. So yeah, this Lil Xan, a white young rapper, whose name is after Xanax, and who raps about throwing up, and and getting on drugs and wanting to, fuck bitches or whatever. This kind of, it is just, whatever he's trying to represent is not in line with the social landscape of things right now, and I think that's a thing that has something to do with why he's as critically maligned as he is. But also people are kind of frustrated about what I think is a kind of a lack of sophistication perhaps in his lyrics, and maybe this kind of very simplified view of drug use and drug abuse and drug addiction and all this stuff. But I don't think that it is fair to really assign judgment on I don't believe in assigning judgment on the music because of that. Yes, it may be unsophisticated lyrically, but that's just because the artist perhaps is not very sophisticated in his use of vocabulary and describing his feelings about this stuff. That's just who he is, and the fact that people still seem to gravitate towards him is emblematic that maybe some people also feel like, as much as it is simplified, maybe they believe in that sort of thing as well, or they have a similar kind of view on it, or perhaps more likely they just kind of agree with the general sentiments of it, agree with the general depressive, lonely, somber kind of introspection that seems to be taking over a lot of the hip-hop of this new generation today, in a way that kind of resembles the early 2000s, punk, pop punk, emo rock, emo pop stuff in the early 2000s that kind of really exemplify this very outward expression of emotionality that you don't really think, that wasn't really something that was supposed to be cool back then. But for some reason, people kind of, in my generation and perhaps people a bit older than me, they kind of gravitated towards this very expressive angst that seems to be pervading with the younger generation, but this time with a genre of hip-hop and perhaps this new wave of people like Lil Xan and XXXTentacion and Post Malone or whatever, these young people, this is the type of music, it's more emblematic of the people listening to it in the social landscape of things. And I think when you listen to music like, Lil Xan's with Wake Up, TikTok, Saved by the Bell Moonlight, Shine Hard, Colorblind, Betrayed is his popular song. I just think that it's more interesting to not approach music critically in terms of trying to assess some kind of qualitative spectrum of sorts. Instead, approach it with an open mind and understanding the context of things, and perhaps learning a bit more about not just the artist itself, not just the audience that listens to it, but perhaps about the social landscape that is creating or leading up to the success of this, whether it's this song or this artist. There is a lot of filler on the album. In terms of filler, it's just songs that kind of take space up in the album, and then they're when you listen to it, which ones are the ones that are hits, or the ones that kind of he expresses himself emotionally and kind of is trying to be vulnerable to some degree, although may not be as lyrically sophisticated about it as other people may be. But yeah, Lil Xan Total Xanarchy, I think it's worth listening to just for that sense, or perhaps just maybe watch the singles, the videos on YouTube, and try to be more open-minded and think about why people enjoy his stuff, and what that probably says about the social landscape and cultural landscape today, and that many people are gravitating towards someone like Lil Xan to kind of express their feelings or whatever. Yeah, I think you should check it out, and be open-minded about it. It's probably not gonna listen to it again, but it's definitely interesting to check out.